So first of all, like, you're most of the time in love. You're always thinking about your product, you're in love with your product, you think about the idea, and you kind of can't necessarily connect the dots for outsiders. So that's why even Ilya Laurs in his book wrote, pitch to friends, family, fools. Tell the story to someone else and ask them to repeat it to you. And then you will see, oh, because everyone, you know, even I, if I'm not a trainer, I nod the head, and I don't want to say bad things, so I will nod the head and say, very good, and leave, right? And you think you're doing extremely well, and you're not, because no one understood anything. But when you try to retell them what you said, then they start to think, oh, I didn't understand this, I didn't understand that. So like typically the main advice, like try to get your pitch and pitch to your whoever is around you. If you get to a founder or your colleague, right, to anyone that's working in the building, just do it, just to get this outside. Can they tell you what you told them? And you realize that there are gaps in what you're telling. Right, so that's one thing. Second thing is more of a overall advice is to get the fundamentals of the market. That's very, so most of my kind of remarks was like, what is the market, right? Like the concrete market, the construction market, or, you know, the plant-based market. So you try to establish the market and the problem or a niche in the market, right? Without telling your product. This is very important. And then you tell how I am addressing the market to build a value-adding business. That is typically how we, you know, try to pitch at Series A, Series B is like long kind of developed startups in our portfolio, is explain the fundamentals and how to build a value-adding business on top. And value-adding is very important because you think like just to create value for your customer is one thing, but to lock the value for yourself and make a margin is very different, right? So I think this fundamentals of the market, and how you're attacking it and what's the value. And then it kind of comes to the business model. So that's kind of one thing. And thirdly, like the team slide, right? It's very nice to have on a team slide, like I saw this unicorn, like this, I think, you know, in your slide, it was like very fancy words, like the name and then like the roles and so on. So I think it's just like PhD in that, like every team member has a PhD, so on. It's much more relevant, and how years are their academia or industry, it's also very good. And kind of advisors, angels, it's also good. So we had like in your slide advisors and maybe even investors. And when you have like, you know, chief executive officer, operating officer, doesn't tell much, right? It's better to tell this person has that experience, that much experience in that industry, PhD, like engineer in that kind of, you know, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer in this company and so on. Even putting company names or university names is very important, because you waste a lot of time telling this, but having a logo saves a lot of time, and highlighting the ones that are important also kind of helps it out. And I think overall you saw like this, what the product does, right? And what do you do? So we had two cases where it was very reversed. So in one sense, like the technology is clear what they do, right? But the product was not clear. And in another case, kind of the product, the technology was not clear, right? But the product kind of is more clear. So we had like these different things. I think it was in the construction that the product is clear, right? But what technology, what you do, it was not clear until the very end. So I think it's very simple, basic stuff, very easy, just on the structure, and then on talking, right? On talking and presenting. This is 3 minutes, right? Even if you're super introvert, like you can collect yourself for 3 minutes, a bit of hand waving, a bit of intonation, you know, it helps. And then don't look at the slides. You should know them. Maybe there's a screen with a timer, so and there should be like a second screen so that you can look at the slide, because it's very bad to kind of take a look back. So typically when on stage there are a second screen, so you can look, you know, what is shown on the slide, did it change correctly and so on, and a timer. So you make sure that there is this, and you kind of tell the story with intonation, with changing, with the way you finish is like on the upper note, not on the down note, because it's all more convincing. And then there's a question, don't forget. Great question. If you cannot answer, don't bullshit, right? And don't go into 3-minute explanation, because Q&A session is typically 3 or 5 minutes. Don't go answering, you know, when Jesus Christ was born, we were like, don't go from long history. It's like, thank you, I think you're asking this, yes, correct. You can kind of inquire if you understood the question correctly, and then 15 seconds, 20 seconds per question, next one. right? Next one. You should not be stuck in the loop of your mental game. That's it, and that's it. All the rest was clear. Who is the jury? What are the criteria? Super important. Make sure you answer clearly in your pitch deck, right? Make sure you answer clearly. That's it.